let's get started. So we are doing a unit called Marvelous Machines Making Work Easier. So what I want you to think about before we get started with it is, I want you to think about what kinds of work do engineers do? So we've asked this question every time we start a unit, and I always like to start again. So what kind of work do engineers do? Cooper.
They make a sort of technology to make something or make something easier.
So they make technologies. Can somebody define the word technology for me? Jack.
Something that people make to solve a problem.
Something that people make to solve a problem. I agree. All right, so now what about if I was to say an industrial engineer? What does an industrial engineer do? What is the word industrial? Cooper.
And they design things that would be used for a company or an industry.
Use things that would be used for a company or an industry. I like that word industry. What industries? If I say a word industry, can you think of any specific industries in the world today? Jack.
Fishing industry.
Fishing industry, yep.
Clothing industry?
Clothing industry. Where are clothes made?
Clothes are made in the...
What type of buildings? Or places?
Places that make clothes.
Places that make clothes, yes. Does anybody know any names for those? David.
Sometimes they're made of warehouses.
Warehouses. In these warehouses, what's in these warehouses? Brooke. Machines. There are machines in these warehouses. And what is the big name for a place that is a big warehouse with machines that make things? Chris. Keep going.
Mills.
The Lowell Mills is a great example. The Lowell Mills you went to in what? Third grade?
Third grade.
So an industrial engineer would work in the Lowell Mills.
A factory.
A factory. That's the word I was looking for. So factories. So an industrial engineer is an engineer that uses their math, science, creativity to solve a problem in a factory. What are some problems that we might find in a factory or in some industries?
Sometimes like if a machine breaks.
If a machine breaks. But remember, an engineer would not just fix a machine. That would be a technician. An engineer would fix problems. Brooke.
They make machines faster.
They might make machines run faster. Maybe get the work done faster. Cooper.
They would fix problems or design entirely new technology.
And so they might fix the problem. So if the factory worker is saying we can't do this with this machine, they might fix that machine to do that. Or they might say we want to be able to do this and they can't do that. Industrial engineers work in many different industries, like healthcare and manufacturing. They also improve objects as well as processes and systems. So now, industrial engineers might design systems or fix systems that work. So for example, they might use computer modeling, which basically means they use a computer to make a model, to figure out how to efficiently move people through lines at amusement parks. Or they might develop a system for how nurses pass instruments to doctors during surgery. And it could be something that sounds really simple. How do you hand this? But if I hand the scalpel to the doctor the wrong way, what might happen? Might cut himself. Or if I hand it not the right way, he could drop it and could fall himself. I mean, it's a little ridiculous, but it could happen. So those are just a couple of the ways. How do simple machines help you? How do simple machines help you? Jack.
Well, they do stuff to make doing work easier.
They make work easier. Do you remember how they make work easier? For most of them. Tony.
They can lift things.
They help you lift things. How do they help you lift things? Cooper.
By using less force and more distance.
So they use less force, more distance, or they trade force for distance. So again, they make work easier by trading the force for distance. So we're going to watch. So normally we would read a book. And what's nice about this unit is they have a DVD.
Yes.
And it's a movie. So now let's take a look at the movie.
Malcolm, it's the weekend. You said we can do something fun today.
Okay, we'll do something fun, I promise. Why don't we go into Boston today?
After all, it only takes some knowledge and a lot of imagination to be an engineer. So, what are you going to engineer today?
So I want you to think about, in the video, you saw children about your age improving the potato chip factory. What were some questions you think that they would have to ask themselves before they could improve it? Tony.
What they can improve it on?
What are you improving? What else? How can I make it easier?
How are we going to design it? Or how is it going to like help work become easier?
Yep.
What simple machines?
What simple machines? So we've asked our questions. Next, we need to imagine. What should you be imagining? Or what should you be doing at this stage? Or what were they doing in the video? Brooke. What is the easiest simple machine to use? I like that. David.
How is it going to help them?
How is it going to help them, and is there more than one way to help them? So if you come up with one idea of what you're going to be able to do, is that enough? No. Chris?
How are you putting the pieces together?
So you think about all the different ways to put the pieces together. So then, plan. What do you do when you plan?
It's like sort of making a rough draft or something.
Making a rough draft. I like the word rough draft. You're making your plan. You're making your idea. You're picking one of your imaginations and you're doing what, Ryan?
You're making a diagram.
Oh, make a diagram. You think about all the materials you need. Because do engineers just jump into it and say, I'm just going to try this out and don't think about it?
Not if they're good engineers.
Exactly, not if they're good engineers. Because guess what? If I go jump in and start changing the factory subsystem and I break something because I wasn't planning right, or I try to make something with, let's say, $100,000 worth of parts and it doesn't work, do you think they're going to be happy that I just wasted all that money? No. So you need to have a good plan in place. That doesn't mean that your plan's going to work all the time, but you've thought about your plan to make sure. So you sketch a plan of your factory subsystem design. So then we're at the create. Jack, what do we do at the create stage?
Create what you're going to do.
Create what you're going to do. And do you just do it from your head, or where do you do it from?
Your idea.
You do it from your idea, your plan. So you build the factory subsystem from the plan, and you're testing each part as you go. Then you improve. After testing, you work to improve your subsystem by using another simple machine. So let's say you decided you were going to use the screw. Well, you didn't really think it out. That didn't really work well. So then you say, you know what, I'm going to use a different simple machine. So how many times do you have to improve until you can stop? Cooper, what do you say?
As long as it takes, as many times as it takes to take the simple machines, replace them if necessary.
You keep improving as many times as possible until it works, and there's nothing wrong with it. But here's my question. Basically, until it's perfect. Do we get perfect really quick? No. I choose to show the Aisha video basically because the storybooks are great, but if you do more than, let's say, 2 units, they have the similar format, so the kids kind of get a little bored with it. So having that video, it's nice to just show that instead. The main thing that I pull from the video is just the engineering design process and how it's used as the industrial engineers would use it, whether it's Malcolm or the industrial engineer at the potato chip factory. And the idea of how potato chips are made because in the loading dock subsystem, because that's what they need to be familiar with when we go to design.